Hello, it is I, Miriam. So, I'm going to play a bit of Elden Ring, and I'm going to explain a little bit of the lore. Um, and so I figured I'd just try this out, see how it goes. Um, so the gist is, why are we here? We are here. We were a Tarnished, and I'll talk a little bit about Tarnished in a bit. But essentially, this was our home, the lands between, and we were banished. We were going sailed away, and now we feel this like compulsory calling back to the lands between, and so we have returned. So let's take our vista out here and explain what we see. All right. As we exit the Chapel of Anticipation, obviously we have the Erd Tree. The Erd Tree is the life-giving tree of the lands between. um, all of kind of the worship and order of the lands between revolves around this tree, which obviously is kind of a reference to the world tree in various world cultures, Yggdrasil from Norse mythology, that kind of thing. Um, in front of us, we see Stormvale Castle. So this is Stormvale Castle. Right in front of us, we're at the Chapel of Anticipation. Down that way is Limgrave. You can see right above my head over there is Castle Morn, way to the south. So let's go down this way. And we are going to face our very first enemy. I don't know what the lore of, like, why we start here at the Chapel of Anticipation. I don't really understand that part of it. I think it was mostly just like a way to get us started. Um, okay, so very first thing here, we have a statue of Marika, Queen Marika the Eternal. So Queen Marika, she was of the Newman people, and they were not native to the lands between. But Marika was chosen as the um, to be the queen over the lands between. She was given the power of the Elden Ring, which um, basically controls like the rules of reality. Essentially, it houses kind of the magic for what is, um, how things work. And so part of the Elden Ring is the Rune of Death. Now the Elden Ring is not a physical like ring that goes on a finger. It's a little bit more of a metaphorical, metaphysical rune, magical rune, um, that is housed essentially within the Erd Tree itself. So Marika was in charge of the Elden Ring and the governance of the lands between. All right. Cool. So we fall down here. Essentially, again, I don't know the lore here, but we find ourselves way deep in the depths of the world. And we're found by Melina. So we start here with our flasks. Um, Once we get to a site of grace, I'm immediately going to use what I chose as my keepsake. I chose the golden seed because you can immediately use it to increase the number of uses in your flask. Um, I'm not going to go through the tutorial area down there. So we come out upon Limgrave. Um, Limgrave is an interesting area in the lands between because it is the essentially the land that is the farthest from the Erd Tree. And so it, um, and you have to pass through Liurnia to get to the Erd Tree. I mean, yeah, between the Erd Tree and Limgrave. And that's significant because Liurnia kind of has its own kingdom, or it did at one point in time. Cool, cool, cool. Um, so, here's the gist. In early days, America was kind of given the responsibility by this um, power called the Greater Will. And here we go. Okay. That is Stormvale Castle up there. That over there is the Chapel of Anticipation that we exited. We went across that bridge, and then somewhere behind this cliff is where we fought the thing and died. So now we're in Limgrave. We get to talk to White Mask Barre, who's going to tell us we have no maidens because he's a jerk.
Oh, yes.
Tarnished,
are
are
we?
we?
Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course
Yep.
you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
Shut up.
Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. First of all, I like to examine and gather kind of all of these. These are summoning pools. We can use them for multiplayer if we ever wanted to. I don't really have the ability to do that just yet, but okay, let's pick up some materials too. Obviously, we're not going to fight the Tree Sentinel. That was a real troll move by the developers to put him there, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, so early on, the lands were not united. They were kind of had their own kingdoms and all that kind of thing. America enlisted the help of several people. Basically, there was a great warrior who had arrived here from across the sea, and he was named Horalu. So America married Horalu. Horalu became Godfrey, and Godfrey was the first Elden Lord. Godfrey conquered the lands between with America, and they basically started this Golden Order. And that is essentially where the religion is a religion around the powers of the Erd Tree. Let's not go that way. But there, well, let's see. So there was the Golden Order, and things were grand for a long time. That's a gross oversimplification, but we can get into some of the details. Shipwrecks. So, what happened right before the game started, or I don't know the time period. I don't know if it's a couple hundred years or a couple thousand years. Basically, there was a series of events that led to that Golden Order just completely dissolving and shattering. Ironically enough, because the name of the event, which shattered the Elden Ring and caused the entire wars and the wars themselves,
You're a
is called
Tarnished.
the Shattering.
I can see it, but I can also see
That you're not
that you're not after
throat.
my throat. Then why not purchase a little something? I am Kale, purveyor of fine goods.
Thanks, Kale, but I'm
Goodbye for now.
broke. Okay. So Marika, as part of her Golden Order, one thing that she's terrified of is death. for herself, for her loved ones. So she broke a piece of the Elden ring off. She broke off the rune of death. And gave it to a guardian spirit, essentially, for safekeeping. And as a result, everyone has kind of become immortal. And this kind of is an in-world lore reason for why we come back to life after we die. But it also kind of was a selfish, self-preservation thing to make sure that none of her or her children died. However, there were some problems with the Golden Order. And, ooh, yay. There was a fair amount of hypocrisy and the like. As with any singular religious-based hierarchy or government, there's a little bit of corruption. There are some flaws with the system. And one of the demigods, so the demigods are offspring of America or some of the other kind of more powerful beings. And one of the demigods was Rani, the witch. And she had this vision of a better world without the Golden Order. Actually, that kind of came later. What happened first was that she didn't want to be part of it. There was a stance break right there. She didn't want to be part of this world. She didn't want to live in this, but obviously she couldn't die. She was essentially a demigod, a suicidal demigod in a land where you cannot die. So she concocted a scheme. She actually stole a piece of the Rune of Death and used it. But she didn't use it on herself first. After she managed to get her hands on a piece of the Rune of Death, I would have gotten a refill of health there, but I already have full health potions, so it was not needed. We're gonna smash! Oh, I always swing too fast, and so I never get to do the crit. Anyway, Rani, after she stole the Rune of Death, she used it on herself, but she also had a plan where she hired these assassins, Black Knife assassins, and Marika and Godfrey had one, they had multiple children. They had Godwin. They had supposedly one other, like Godefroy. I don't really know much about Godefroy. But they had Godfrey, and he was Godwin the Golden. Godfrey and Marika's eldest son. And they obviously loved and cherished him very much. He was kind of like the hope for, perfect order in the world. He was literally the golden child. You can't get much more literal than that. Let's get away before that guy with the horn here sees us. Let's see if we can take him out. Don't mind me. Take that. And then we'll get our map fragment. Okay, don't have to worry about him alarming the camp now. there was also Morgoth and his brother Moog. They were also children of Marika and Godfrey. But they were omens, and omens are kind of cursed beings who they are kind of shunned by society. And, you know, they have kind of horns growing out of them and that kind of thing. So they're not talked about much because most of the society are not fans. But what Ronnie did was she had the Black Knight assassins go and kill Godwyn the Golden. And so that was in the intro cinematic. And after that happened, Marika became enraged. And, well, not just enraged, but also, you know, panicked, terrified. So, at this point, sometime in the past, Marika had essentially divorced Godfrey. She used him, basically. She was like, okay, thanks for conquering the lands for me. You're no longer needed. Adios. And banished him and all of his warriors across the sea. All of the warriors that used to live here that were banished with him, that's what the Tarnished are. And we are one of those Tarnished. First damage of the game. Okay, so after roaring, I think it changes my... Yeah, see, after doing the roar, I get a different... Boom! So then Marika married another, a guy named Radagon. Radagon was one of her most loyal commanders who went to Liurnia of the Lakes, which, remember, I earlier had quoted something saying very briefly that Liurnia kind of was ruled by its own aristocracy of sorcerers and magic users. And so Radagon had gone and conquered that area by making a truce and marrying the leader of Liurnia. But Marika called Radagon back. He returned and married Marika instead. So the children of Marika and Godfrey are demigods. The children of Radagon and Renala are demigods. But then there were also children of Marika and Radagon, and those were... that is... come on. Okay, got him. That is Melania and Mikola, the children of Marika and Radagon. So, Marika had already, you know, basically said adios to Godfrey by that point. Here we go. Boom. Okay, but when Ronnie killed Godwyn, Marika just freaked out. She shattered the rest of the Elden Ring, and, you know, the pieces of it essentially went far and wide. All of the demigods, who were descended from either her or Radagon, claimed shards of the Elden Ring and started to fight, essentially. And so, several thousand years ago, the whole land was ravaged by war of these demigods constantly fighting and battling, and nobody can die. So this has lasted for a long, long time, and the lands have just not had a break. In fact, we can see evidence of one of these battles right here. I believe this is the one that is talking about how Melania marched through here, past Stormvale, on her way to Caelid to face off against Radon. Let's see. Godric the Golden, humiliated, having tasted defeat by the blade of Mikola, now on his knees begging for mercy. So Godric the Golden is a distant descendant of, Godfrey and Marika, and he claims golden lineage, but he's really a coward and he's awful. And there's other reasons that he's awful, which we'll get into eventually. But he lives in Stormvale Castle up there, the one that, the very same castle that we are going to get into after Margit, that Margit is guarding. And Melania, with her army, was coming down this way to go towards the lands of Caelid to fight Radon, and Godric was in the way, and she scared the shit out of him, and he wimped out. So it's kind of a funny thing. We may talk about that at some point, but so the lands are ravaged by war and have been for thousands of years. Nobody can die. It's just it's not a fun time. Ow. Ha ha ha. I would like a different weapon, honestly. Okay, so let's see, what else is needed to know before, by the time we get here in the lands between. So we were part of the original host from Godfrey that were banished. I see a person over there sneaking in. Looks like they got a new game plus because they have a weapon that is not early game. Wonder if I can use my Ash of War, or my Barbaric Roar on this guy. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a lot of the basics. I'm gonna see if I can get this guy and have this place cleared out. Can he reach me up here? No. Ow! Yes, he can. Okay, good to know. Ouch. Oh, if I can do that again, then I may be able to... Oh! Come on. Whoo, hoo, hoo, hoo. Come on, come on. Oh, that hurt. I cannot get hit again. Come on. No. Oh, that's okay. I think that's an okay place to call it. We've covered a lot. I mostly rambled that entire time, and this might be a good place to kind of call it.